Robert Reich, who unfortunately has been, kind of touted around as this economic expert because he's worked for other administrations, though he is about as economically illiterate as it gets. I believe he does kind of praise the God that is Keynesian economics, and he doesn't often know what he's talking about. Now, some people would say that, well, he does know, he just is banking on regular individuals that don't look stuff up to just take his word for it. I think it's both. I believe he's genuinely a stupid person, as there's no shortage of economically illiterate people out there, but he also is anticipating that nobody's going to fact check him. Well, thanks to this deal here on X, he said something that was incredibly foolish that I want to discuss, but he also got community noted. So he brings up this. He talks about Kroger. And by the way, let me set the scene. This whole price gouging thing has been discussed. Even though she doesn't really have policy, Kamala Harris-Khan has been bringing it up and how she's going to basically do price controls, which are some of the most dangerous policies that you can possibly implement. It has absolutely led to some of the, most egregious economic failures that we've seen over the course of modern history. Is price fixing and government controls and monopolization of goods or pricing in any way, shape, or form. This is something that should be opposed, and we should be aggressive in opposition to it. Now, he said this. He says Kroger had gross profit margins above 20% over the last 5 years. And by the way, he's anticipating that you don't know the difference between gross and net, okay? And again, most people don't. Most people will see X amount of dollars brought in. They think that means that they've pocketed all that. They're not accounting for any sort of expense. And as the community note here documents, their net profit margin was only 1.43%. Grocery stores, by the way, operate generally around that. I think 1.6, as it documents there, is the average. They don't make a lot of money. So he talks about is using dynamic pricing to gouge us further. He says paid his CEO $15 million, 502 times a typical Kroger employee. Doesn't matter. You can axe that and divide it among all the Kroger employees, and it would be almost nothing in terms of their raise. Says wants to acquire Albertsons, so you have nowhere else to shop. Okay, now he's already been debunked. He's stupid, dangerous person, has a lot of following. People believe that he knows what he's talking about economically, whatever. The other thing that often these types are going to point to is just a flat number, right? I don't know how much in terms of the gross profit that they made in that number, but if it's like $1 billion, people are going to point to that $1 billion and they're going to say, well, it's just a whole lot of money, and these are just sort of greedy sort of capitalists. Which again goes back to the original point that they are anticipating, or he is anticipating, that you don't go look this up for yourself, and you will realize that it's not a lucrative market anyway, and they don't make a lot of money in profit. Now, this approach and why this is so attractive to the Joe Blow. Well, they'll say, yeah, you should make less, because they believe in this whole putting the problem or kicking the can down the road, or that it's somebody else's problems. Okay. See, this is the thing. Let's say that they did make X billion dollars amount and it was profit, though it wasn't gross and it wasn't in net. Okay. And let's say they did raise a price or two. You need to understand how inflation works, okay? So people, in order to continue to maintain the same amount of money that they were bringing in, are often going to raise prices if the money isn't going as far. Because just as you are going to be expected to pay more, and this is why regulation is so dangerous, because every time they're going to push that price down on the customer. And it's not their fault. They simply have no choice. And I'm telling you this as a multi-million-dollar business owner, right? Who has tried to lower the prices as much as he could, but I can't lower them anymore. Definitely if the money's not going to go as far, right? So the money doesn't go as far. And let's say oil or whatever goes up. Obviously, they're in the gross, sort of grocery store market, they absolutely are going to be relying on oil and all that stuff through their transportation, right? So if the trucking company is going to be charging them more, of course they have to charge them more. It's a chain reaction, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and yes, the customers themselves are going to suffer because of it, but you need to look at what the actual problem is. It's not the company. I know it's easy to say that, well, you see a big number and they're charging more than what they did before. Therefore, you think that they're making more money than they did before, definitely if they're charging more. And that's not how it works. And really, they're not even breaking even. Even the number might be higher in comparison to 2022, in comparison to 2021. The number that they brought in might be higher, but that $1 billion ain't the same $1 billion from 5 years ago. It's basic mathematics. So your actual issue, if you have an issue with prices going up, your problem is with the government. Bottom line, your problem is with the Treasury. Your problem is with the Federal Reserve. That is your problem. But it's easier to blame rich people. It's easier to blame bigger companies. It's easier to blame them. And there's always going to be a government or someone running for office that will then go blame them and say that they have the solution. And the solution is often doing and implementing the same damn thing that caused the problem in the first damn place. These are dangerous, dangerous, dangerous people. Thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to Rippaverse.com to check out our comic book company. We have books, plenty of merchandise, and even some glorious animations from Rippaverse Studios.